Welcome guys, I recently did a review of the Sofirn SC18 and I'm going to be including that for comparison's sake today in my video about the Sofirn C8L. Now you might be saying, why would you compare these two flashlights? They're totally different size, they're probably a different use case. I'll tell you a little bit more about that once we're outside and you can see both of them in action, but in a brief summary now I would just say, it's because the SC18, until the very highest modes, keeps up with this light to an impressive degree. And when you're talking, at least what is right now, the price could change after I post this video, but what is right now an $18 flashlight versus a $50 to $55 flashlight, you're getting, I think, a heck of a lot of value for this, and it just bears mentioning, and it wasn't something that I could say in the actual review of this light back when I did it because I didn't yet have this one. This light obviously is powered by a bigger and more powerful 21700 battery, and it's got a heck of a turbo mode at 3100 lumens, which is not something this little one can touch. But as you'll see outside, and the low and medium modes, they're fairly similar actually, and you might be surprised by the sheer difference in bezel size, but that says a lot for the TIR lens that's in this and just what that can do for a small bezeled, small pocket light. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on the specs because you guys can read those yourself in the video. I want to focus this mostly to practical usage and letting you see it in action so you could make up your own mind. Okay, we're outside and we're going to test the Sofirn C8L against the SC18 that I have. So this is what they call the eco mode on the C8L. It's like a mode that's below what they call their low mode. I guess you could sort of call this like a moonlight mode. Personally, I wish they didn't have this mode in the light, and that's just because I feel like when you're reaching for a flashlight this big, with that huge of a bezel and everything, with this kind of a battery in it, you want it for the throw distance. We're going to see in a minute, and it's just one more mode to cycle through every time or if they were going to do it, I wish it was like the other Sofirn lights where you press and hold from off to go into moonlight mode without like wasting the time to go into this one this way. So let me step up to the actual low mode, which is pretty decent. Gonna walk away. Those garbage cans that I'm pointed at are probably about 30 feet from me, so like 10 meters or so. So the low mode does a great job of catching those. But as throwy as this flashlight is, on the lower modes, I'm going to show you the Sofirn SC18. You can see that it doesn't have as pronounced of a hot spot to brighten up the detail of those, but generally it hits them about as well. And the spill area around it, to me, to my eye, is close. It's a little better on the C8L. It's a little wider. It's a little brighter. But it comes real close. Now I'm on the SC18 again. I'm going to step up into its medium mode. Okay. So those trees across the street from where I'm standing are probably about 70 feet, 60 to 70 feet. So call that maybe 20, 25 meters. I'm impressed that the medium mode hits it that well, and if I shine the light like more on the ground around in front of me, most of what's immediately in front of me is lit up well. And of course in all my reviews I always mention that on video everything looks a little darker than it does to me in real life. The sides of the spill are brighter and clearer to my eye than they probably come through on the camera. I can see enough detail to see the stones and the leaves on the ground right there. You know, I don't know whether you guys can or not, but okay, so that's the medium on that. I'm going to show you the medium on. So there's the medium on that. So similar. Again, the hot spot on the C8L is higher detail, if you want to call it that. The spill is sharper. That's how I would describe it. It's not as soft as the smaller SC18, but it's a similar width. That's kind of why I wanted to pit these two lights against each other, because I feel like, as you'll see in a minute, until you get up into the very highest modes that the C8L offers, the SC18, being like less than half the price and a much smaller light that can fit in your pocket, keeps up remarkably well. So Let me see if I can hold the camera and the flashlight in my arm all at the same time. Okay, so that's the C8L shined across the street. Let me try to put, there's the SC18 to the left of it. So, like I'm saying, like you can see the different hotspot of the C8L being a little sharper, but the general usable area I find is pretty similar, and the overall amount of like detail I can get from over there is actually a little wider and more useful, I find, with the smaller flashlight. So let's kick them up into the high mode. This is high on the left of the SC18, and that's high on the C8L. Same deal, better hotspot detail on the larger flashlight, but general throw and usable spill, pretty similar between the two. And since it's nighttime and there's not really a lot of traffic, I'll step out into this country road that goes quite a distance just so you can really appreciate how far the C8L can throw, because that's where this light excels. So first off, let me put the SC18 in turbo mode just so we get an idea of, this is as bright as the little light can get, and that's as far as it can throw. So that's pretty solid because the road way up there curves and you stop really being able to see it. I'll turn around. This part of the road is a bit longer. There's a downhill and then a road that keeps going down there. You can't really appreciate that on the SC18, but this shines on a small light that I'd be carrying around. That is damn impressive to me, and that's about as far as I would ever expect a little light to shine. It's probably the best throw I've ever had on a little light like that. So now that we've seen that, this is the C8L on the high mode that I had it on a minute ago. So this is not quite the brightest it can get or the farthest it can throw, but it easily hits further down to the street where, again, I don't know how well it comes through on the video, but I can actually see the yellow line where it curves to the right and then swoops to the left and disappears into the trees way down there. And if I look the other direction behind me, I can see the yellow reflective sign at the bottom of the hill down there. It shines farther, for sure. I'll kick up into turbo. Even more so. Now it will hit that swerve way down there, but in much greater detail. And also, as you can tell, width-wise, it blows up the full width of the street in all directions in a lot of brightness and detail. That's excellent. And this, obviously, is where this light pulls way ahead of the SC18. Not to disrespect this C8L light for what it is, but I feel like a $18 pocket light is in some ways a better value than a $50 big light like this one, just because the usable width of the throw, the spill, all that is very similar, unless you're just in a position where you prefer a style of light that is more like pronounced hot spot in the middle with a very sharp wide spill around it. If you prefer that instead of a more diffuse light, this light would make a lot of sense. But it's not until this light gets up into high and especially into turbo where it's 3100 lumens versus the 1800 of the SC18 really becomes obvious. Okay, so final thoughts about this light. I like that it's a tail on and off switch. That's probably my only dislike of the SC18 and what is otherwise, I think, a splendid little flashlight is that I find the button near the bezel in the front being how you change the mode and turn it on and off. It's way too easy to accidentally activate it, and yes, it does have a lockout mode, but I feel like with all of the tail switch flashlights I own, you don't even need a lockout mode most of the time, and so it's cool that this has that ability, but you have to use it a lot if you're going to shove this in a pocket or a backpack without it turning on all the time, whereas this one, a little easier to turn it on when you need it and not worry that it's going to be turned on when you don't. It does have the side switch up here for switching the modes when it's on. That's okay, I guess. I don't have a strong preference between having a separate mode button or just switching between the tail. I guess I would say my preference would be to do everything through the tail with a half press, because if you're already holding it in this position to turn it on and off, then your thumb is already there. Pressing it and then having to readjust your hand just for the modes maybe isn't ideal all the time, but I don't think that's a huge deal. I still think versus other lights that I've seen from like Olight and other brands that get up into this brightness level, this is a great value at the $50 to $55 price point. You're getting a lot of flashlight for the money. It seems to be pretty well built. The button for the mode has a little bit of a wobble on it. Not to the degree that it feels cheaply made, but it's maybe not like the super high-end fit and finish that you would see out of some other brands. But at the price point, that's not a big concern of mine. And to be honest, the fact that it has fairly fast charging from a USB-C cable, which is not something I see on all of the lights that I have. Some of them either don't have a plug that you can charge at all, or they're using an antiquated plug type. That's a huge win for this. It feels like a modern flashlight, and you could use the same cables that you use for your phones and for everything else in your life. That's great. So if you're looking for a light that you don't mind to be a little bigger, that fills the hand, that can still fit in a jacket pocket or something, that you have some options between usable low modes or some awesome throw to light up big areas when you need it, this delivers at $50, and I don't have any major gripes that I think would stop me from recommending it to people who are on the market for that sort of a light. If you're looking for a thrower that does a pretty good job of hitting a long distance, but unlike some throwers, this doesn't sacrifice the usable width of the outside beam in order to attain that distance. The other Sofirn thrower that I had used, the IFF2A, I believe it was, it was a great thrower, but I just found the beam kind of unusable the rest of the time. This doesn't suffer from that problem, and I think that's a real win. So if you're shopping for this kind of light, or you're giving it thought and you think you might want to buy one, please consider using the affiliate link in my description. No additional cost to you. I get a minor commission for doing it. I appreciate anyone who does that to help support the channel and my efforts. If not, no hard feelings. I'm glad I could help you if you're trying to make a decision on this. Please leave a like if it was helpful. Throw your questions down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next video.